Welcome to the Great Awakening Ministry. I am Minister and Yogini Joanne Lee, and on this week's show we have Sonja Grace. Award-winning author, mystic healer Sonja Grace is a spiritual teacher and energy surgeon. She defies time and space with her ability to spirit travel and work with clients wherever they are in the world. Sonja is both Native American and Norwegian. She is adopted on the Hopi Reservation, where she is considered a medicine woman. Sonja is the author of Spirit Traveler, Unlocking Ancient Mysteries and Secrets of 8 of the world's great historic sites. In her book, she takes a unique approach to analysing why famous historic sites, including the Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, and Tiwanaku, were constructed. Sonja sheds light on what the people and cultures of the past were doing at these sites and why, offering a brand new understanding of the events that took place there centuries ago. Sonja was featured weekly on Feel Good Factor TV in the UK. She can be seen on GAIA TV's Great Minds, Ancient Civilizations, Inspirations and Beyond Belief with George Noory and Coast to Coast AM. Her books, Spirit Traveler and Dancing with Raven and Bear, are the winners of the Beverly Hills Book Awards. Become an Earth Angel book is the basis of her Earth Angel training course.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Okay,
Sonja,
nice to meet you.
It's lovely to meet you. And Sonja, welcome to the Great Awakening show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so lovely. It's so hot here today in England. We're having a heat wave and it's just too much. Oh, but it's.
I heard from several friends that you guys were quite warm. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've got lots of beautiful questions for you. But
Okay.
the first one, this is the Great Awakening show, and I believe that humanity, I know that we're always awakening, but I think that we're going through a great awakening at this time that has been prophesized, for so long. And I think it's really fastening up. What do you believe? How do you see this? What does this Great Awakening mean for you and for us all?
I think that, yes, there's a lot of people who are waking up, and there's a lot of things happening that are bringing a higher level of consciousness to people. But I'm also, because I work with people every day, all day long, on emotional trauma, emotional wounds, past lives, things that have impacted and affected them in this life, I see the same patterns of addiction happening with spiritualism as I see with alcoholism or drug abuse or any food addiction, any kind of addiction. So I'm kind of like walking a fine line in this industry, because I'm not one of these people who's just going to blow smoke up somebody's skirt and say, "Oh, you had an awakening and now everything is so groovy and cool." No, it's not. And I deal with this every day. People calling me and having had some spectacular spiritual experience, and somehow life doesn't stop. That should be a marker for how much harder we need to work on the internal process. And obviously we're all still here. We've got karma to work out. That should be the first and foremost path, in my opinion.
That's very true. And like I always say, I believe that, collectively we go through dark nights of the soul, and it's many times we go through that. So you can awaken, but then you can go through another dark night of the soul. It's not just rainbows and light and wonderful unicorns. No, we've got the darkness to release, and it's like you do the work and then you get taken down again, and then you do the more work, and it's an evolution that goes on forever.
It's
isn't
a
it?
lifelong process.
Yes.
I tell my clients that all the time. Because they'll say, "Oh, well, I did, 10 years of therapy and I thought I was okay." And it's like, you know what? This is the process why we're here. Karma is unresolved emotional wounds. And so if you have lifetimes of being abandoned or feeling betrayed or some wounding that is repeating lifetime after lifetime, it may take the lifetime that you're in to resolve that wounding, to clear it. And I find, in, again, not to sound like I'm complaining, but I find that there's a lot of people who want instant spiritualism. I'm going to ascend, aren't I? I'm going to become enlightened, aren't I?
No.
Am I going to reach nirvana in this lifetime? And it's like, oh, can we not just be in the moment and appreciate who we are and where we're at in this moment? It's not about what we're going to reach or what we reached in a past life. Really, not to sound callous, but I've been doing this work and teaching meditation for 43 years. And there's that part of me that's like, who cares? We just need to be here now and recognize what we need to be working on.
Yes.
And I people always say, what's the best way to do this? And I always say it's meditation. That's how
Yes.
we get there. I know
Yes.
you know this, but that's how we get there.
Yeah, that is number one for me as well. Really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And wow, 43 years. That's a long time for you to be on this path of helping and guiding so many people. So I can see that you've really, you know how it is. And it is it's not an instant, some people rarely would have an instant awakening. Yeah. And
Right.
then they'd become a guru or something like that. But it doesn't work like that, does it? It's a gradual process, a gradual peeling away the layers, a gradual, and self-discipline and self-examination, of actually being with oneself and going within.
You just said the key words, in my opinion: self-discipline. I trained from the time I was 5 years old as a classical ballerina, and I danced professionally for about 15 years. And I learned a level of discipline being a ballet dancer that a lot of people don't get. And of course, unless they study music or they study some art form that takes discipline. And I'm a huge advocate, and I train people that people need a teacher. They need someone as that touchstone to understand what's happening, to really look at their lives and say, okay, I am avoiding that. I'm skirting that issue. And here now my teacher's bringing that up and pointing that out to me. But we're in this instant society. We have instant coffee and instant oatmeal and instant poof, whatever. We're gonna make it just instant. And spiritualism has fallen into that bucket. I have clients who say, well, I'm going to Peru. I'm going to go do an ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and what are you going to get out of that? Well, I want to see, they want something that they don't have. And yet they come back from the ayahuasca ceremony having had an experience, but their life is still the same. They
Same.
still have to work their job, drive their car, take care of the kids, whatever. And it's like I work hard to help people see how each day we can embody that energy, that light, if we just take the time to be
Yeah.
present, to be
Yes.
present.
That's so
Yeah.
important. That's so true. I know people have done ayahuasca 15 times, but they're chasing this thing that never is out there. They're chasing some drug, some miraculous thing to heal them, when healing
Yep.
comes from within. It's like The Alchemist, the book The Alchemist. He traveled all around the world to find out what was already within him. You
Right.
know?
Right. And that's so true. That's so true. the journey that we take to really come back to the center of what I call is our greatest mystery, and that's our lives.
Yes.
It is our greatest mystery that we have to solve. And
Yes.
I can't tell you again, so many people call me and I bring them to that place of seeing what happened when they were 6 months old, when they were in their mother's womb, that
Wow.
has set the stage of a lifetime of patterns that keep them locked in and that keeps them saying, why can't I get past this? Why is this happening? And yet, that resistance to, oh no, my parents were great. Well, sure, everybody's parents were great. This isn't about finding fault in someone's parents. This is about learning that they were wounded people.
Yes.
They have their karma and their stuff they're working on.
Yeah.
And our karma interfaces with that and becomes a part of that psychology. And that's
Mm.
what we inherit. So there's such to me, a bigger journey than just having these wowie zowie moments. Oh, I went to Egypt and I started crying hysterically. And it's like, okay, great. You tapped into some lifetimes here that were very powerful for you. But now what are you going to do with that?
Yeah. Or also, Sonja, that happens, and then the next day, an outside something happens, and then they completely go crazy. They haven't mastered. I believe we're here to master our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, our
Right.
words, and our actions, to be the master of that is so important. And to
That's
stay
right.
in that place where whatever happens, you take it and you assimilate it and you turn it into, into positivity to give out
Mhm.
to the world. So you transmute that through you, instead of reacting. And so, because people just, they say, "Oh, I've had this awakening," and the next day they're back to being normal again. It's a constant, as you said, isn't it?
It is, and I love where you're going with this, and I absolutely love you. I'm so excited. I feel that all of that work, all of that understanding of the deep emotional wounds that we carry, the first and most important one is when our soul enters the body, we experience the core wound of separation from
Separation.
God. And
Yes.
so yeah, so we're all trying to work on that first, and then we have all these other emotional wounds. But what I wanted to say about it is we are learning compassion when we're doing that inner work. And that's where compassion comes from, because we start to gain compassion for ourselves and for our parents and our ancestral lines, because we're now looking at things from a much deeper place. Yeah.
And it's so important to do this work so that we become the 0 point. We dissolve that, we live out the karma, we do the work, and we become the 0 point so that we don't push it on to the next generation. Otherwise, it's going to carry on and carry on and carry on.
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's true. It's true.
And this question is so beautiful. Please tell us, our audience, what a spirit traveler is, for you are a spirit traveler.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sure your audience knows what astral projection is, and that's not what spirit traveling is. I had an experience about 25, 30 years ago. My husband and I we were well, we weren't camping. We were in a cabin, and we were going to go in and make dinner. And it was so beautiful out there. There's a beautiful creek and mountains that I grew up, camping in as a kid. I was so excited to be there. And I was sitting on this little bench, and I looked at my husband and I said, I just want to do a meditation. It'll just be a few minutes, and then I'll come in and we'll make dinner. So he sat down on the deck and kind of held space. I mean, he's my protector. So I felt really good being outside, and that, he was keeping an eye. So I went into meditation, and in my meditation, my my body dissolved. It became particles that just merged with everything in nature. I was gone. My body was gone. And my guides, who are high angelic beings, were standing in front of me. They held their hand out and they said, "We want to show you something." And and God, it was so long ago, it still makes me cry. It was like we went up and up and up and up and up, and it seemed forever that we were just going up into the universe. And we arrived at what they described was the center of the universe. And these beings that I know personally, that I call the Savrak, and they're the ancient ant people. I've written about them now in both Spirit Traveler, the first book, and my new book, Spirit Traveler, which we can talk about in a minute. But I went to this place, and there was sort of this milky white substance, like real milky white. And the Savrak looked at me and said, "We want you to step into this." And I was scared. I was a lot of things. And I said, "Okay." And so I did. I stepped into it, and it was like instantly, it was so intense. It was complete bliss from head to toe. Like I was in this state of such bliss. I could not imagine ever coming out of it. It was so intense. I can't even describe it to you. And my guides, it was kind of like tap, 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 time to go. It was like, no, I was so excited to be there. Anyway, so we came back down. I thanked the Savrak and was very grateful for having that experience. And we came back down, and it was 3 hours later. It was so, my husband was still sitting there in the dark and, watching over me. And I was so moved by this. And it was after that experience that my guides started, telling me it's time to go. And my body would dissolve into complete particles of nothingness. And we would go, and they would take me back in time, to sites that were sacred, that nobody knew why or how was that built or what happened here. And I never said I want to go here. They always announced where we were going to go. So anyways, I get emotional talking about that.
Absolutely beautiful. And that leads me on to your book, Spirit Traveler, Unlocking the Ancient Mysteries and Secrets of 8 of the world's great historic sites.
That one.
Beautiful.
That
Please
one.
tell us a little bit about your book.
But this is the new one.
Oh, right. Yes.
I have a new one.
Wonderful.
It just came out. Yes. So the first one it's really in depth. The first part of the chapter, I talk about, what we know. This is the known history. And then the second part of the chapter is the spirit travel of what I saw, what happened, who built it, why it was built. And the cool part is I have a podcast now called Sonja Grace's Spirit Traveler. And I'm going through a lot of these sites from the book and talking about them and sharing my spirit travel. So if you want to listen to something as opposed to, sit down and read the book, it's great. The new book is called Spirit Traveler, Unlocking More Mysteries of Ancient Sites Around the World.
Wow.
And it's available on Amazon. And
sure.
In this book, I cover some really great sites. I take people to the Great Sphinx, where I meet Sekhmet, and this whole thing. It's an amazing chapter. Easter Island in Japan, there's an ancient megalith called Ishinohodam. The Göbekli Tepe, the Great Pyramid, the Ziggurat of Ur, and the Eye of the Desert, Atlantis. And I go really in depth into Atlantis. So
Wow.
it's a great companion to the first book, because the first book I cover some amazing sites, including the Khafre Pyramid and the Rock of Cashel, and I go into so much of I meet the beings who created the places. I met the Tuatha in Ireland, and on Skellig Michael, and you might know Skellig Michael because you live in the UK. It's an island off the coast of Ireland, and it's where they filmed one of the Star Wars movies when they found Luke hiding out.
I
Yeah,
remember.
do you remember that? And
Yep.
those beehive huts. Oh my God, I was in the theater with my husband, and I literally burst out, "That's Skellig Michael!" I was so excited.
Beautiful.
It was beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
and so what is what do how do you um know what do you know about the people doing these sites, building these sites? Why is it so different from the history that we've been told?
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you take the pyramids for
Yeah.
one, there's the Tropic of Cancer, and on the Tropic of Cancer, it's all pyramids. And when I went there, I met a race of giants called Mu. And you've heard the word Mu before in
So you mean
reference.
when you went in, when
No,
you went
no, when
through
I traveled back in time
time, yeah, I mean through spirit
before the
traveling.
pyramids were built,
Yeah.
before they were built, there was a race of giants. They have kind of a blue tint to their skin, and they literally have gave humans the blueprints to build these pyramids, because they're very exact. I mean, the engineering of any pyramid is like, what? We can't even do that today, right? So they helped build the pyramids, but what was in place first was the chamber, the chamber that held what we now know as a sarcophagus. In that chamber, it was a way for the people to travel from Earth to Orion.
Wow.
It,
Wow.
it was it was a transport system. They built the pyramid around it basically to protect it, but the transport system was built first. And all the speculation of, well, how did they get that room in there, and how did they build all these blocks and make everything fit right? Well, I feel it's because this inner part was there first. This was built around it.
To
But
protect it, yeah.
these giants were instrumental in building and helping the people. They helped us. They didn't harm us. They were very helpful. Just like the Pleiadians have been instrumental in each phase of humanity on Earth, the Pleiadians are actually demigods. They're not aliens. If you want to talk about aliens, we can talk about, grays and reptilians and all that stuff. Pleiadians are high benevolent beings that have very quietly come and influenced and helped people. Salisbury Plain, they're in the UK. They were the ones that instructed and helped the people in the beginning of this phase of humanity, learning ceremonies and teaching them all the things that they knew. And they're the ones that placed the large sarsen stones of Stonehenge, because it was their monument, their reminder to the people that they had been there and they would always be there.
Mm,
That's why those stones are supercharged with energy. And unfortunately, a very hungry, society has somewhat sucked the energy right out of
of
them.
course. Of
And a
course.
lot of these sacred sites, that's happened where people are so power hungry. They're so insistent that they have the right to take something.
Mm,
Where did
mm.
we ever get that?
Mm,
that they're taking energy from these sites.
yeah.
And, it's too bad. It's too bad
And
because
many of the, yeah.
go ahead.
No, many of them, these sacred ancient sites, they're portals into other dimensions. Yeah, the
Right.
multidimensional universe that
Right.
they
And
are.
I talk about that in Spirit Traveler in my chapter about Stonehenge. I talk about all those stone circles in Europe and the UK being not only portals, but either energy coming from the cosmos to Earth or energy from Earth going up to the cosmos. And in the case of Stonehenge, it's both. It's coming in and it's going out.
Mhm.
And in that portal, which is all of Salisbury Plain, because it was much bigger than just Stonehenge, was a way for people to not only receive energy from the Pleiadians and them coming through, but it was also a way for the Earth, because the Earth is a being. She's a goddess. She has a round, beautiful blue body. For her to send energy out, and this, oh God, there's just so much about what the ancient people knew about Earth that we have somehow in today's society divorced ourselves from.
Well,
It's
I
crazy.
really believe that the history is not the true history at all. You know,
Right.
it's, I believe the people, they don't want us to know the true history at all. You
Well,
know,
and in the case of, for example, in Wales, Saint Winifred's Well, I tell the story of Saint Winifred and how Catholicism remembers that, how they recorded that. But when I spirit traveled back in time and met Saint Winifred, she told me the real story. And if you know the story of her, it's quite miraculous. She was beheaded. Her uncle, the priest, sewed her head back on, and she was deemed a saint and lived the rest of her life serving the people. But in fact, back in her time, she was in love with a man who was a pagan. And because her family was so tied to the church, it was forbidden. And they hunted down the guy she was in love with and beheaded him, put his head on a spike to show people we will not tolerate paganism. And she was forced to serve her life in the church. And it's that little bit of changing the story that has happened over and over and
that's
over.
right. And I mean, the history of our world is so, we don't even know exactly how old it is, and it's just remarkable. But it's going to come out. I believe that the truth will come out soon.
Yes,
Yes, definitely. I believe it will come out.
I do
But,
too.
but as a healer, um, you so you work with clients all over the world,
Yeah.
and so, and you go in. So how do you go in? How do you spirit travel? Tell us how that happens, because it's not a form of, as you said, it's not a form of astral projecting.
Yeah, it's not. When I am working with people, let's say I've got a client in Singapore, I have a completely different relationship with time and space. I
Mm,
don't need to see them, only if I don't have them on the phone with me, then I prefer to have a picture of them. And otherwise, I don't do Zoom calls. I only do, phone, WhatsApp, that kind of thing. And I literally put myself in front of that person and and work on them as if they were right there in front of me.
hmm
And I'm like an energy surgeon. I do
Yes, picking up on
triple
that
bypass
energy.
surgeries. I,
Yeah,
work on livers, hearts,
yeah,
spleens, everything. Yeah.
picking up on that energy. Wow, that's
And
amazing.
I go into the body and work on them
Mm,
as
mm,
well as working on energy systems. Most people will say that they feel it, like they feel a coolness, or they feel a tingling, or they feel something going on. I've cleared people's intestines, and in the middle of the call, it's like, I got to go to the bathroom,
Because
and they run out.
because everything, we are just energy beings, aren't we? Having a
Yeah,
human
we
life
are.
experience. So, and everything is connected
Yeah,
by the love light energy of source. Is it not? It's just beautiful, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. And I find that when people are really receptive to receiving healing, that it's quick. It's
Yeah,
like animals. If I work on an animal, it's super quick because
yeah,
there's no ego. There's nothing that blocks you. When
yes,
I work on people, if there's ego there, if there's sort of that belief system matrix that they're in, well, I don't know if she can do this. I'm kind of attached to my illness. I identify with this, it's like I got to get through all that stuff to get through to healing.
that's right.
So it's really helpful, if someone's in a place of, okay, I'm done with this. I need to I need to get through and heal.
And
In case
mm,
in point, I had a client who he had an appointment with me, and his wife 2 hours before the appointment called and said he's been rushed to the hospital. They're going to do open heart surgery. They found blockage, blah, blah, blah. She said, can you work on him? And I said, absolutely. I went in, I cleaned
mm,
out all the arteries. I found the blockage. I cleaned it out. I put energetic stints in. Everything was good. He went into surgery. Doctor opened him up and said, there's nothing wrong here. Closed him up. That was it.
wow,
Yeah,
that's unbelievable.
yeah.
But
But,
people have to want to be healed. They have to have a connection to their higher self, because at the end of the day, it is the higher self that comes in, to heal the body, isn't it? Yeah, it's like you working with that energy of that person's higher self to come in to cause that healing.
that may be what's happening. I don't experience that. I literally
Yeah,
experience I'm holding their heart and I'm
yeah,
cleaning the arteries. So that may be some, conjoining of their
yeah.
higher self and me
That's right.
working on the physical.
Wow.
I just had a client of mine contact me and tell me that her daughter-in-law gave birth to the baby, the little girl, but there was so much problems with the labor that the baby's heart stopped, and and the baby was there was no heartbeat when it was born. They did CPR on the baby and brought the baby back, but there was all these things wrong. The kidneys weren't functioning, the urine flow wasn't happening, heartbeat was irregular, tons of problems. And she texted me and said, quick, can you help? And I dropped everything and looked at the baby. And when we die, all of the chakras disconnect from the vertical power current, that big cord that runs from God all the way down to the center of the earth. So everything disconnects, and that's what becomes the tunnel of light that takes us up to God. And so I'm looking at this little baby, and all of the chakras have disconnected. And I'm like, oh my God, this poor little baby thinks she's dying because her heart stopped, obviously. So, I always ask God, I get permission, but I was told yes. I put all the chakras back into the vertical power current. I worked on the kidneys, I worked on the urine flow, I worked on the heart, everything. And within 30 minutes, she wrote me back and said, oh my God, everything's back online. Everything is reading now normal. And
Wow.
I was so happy. I can't tell you. I was so, so happy because I'm human. I get definitely invested in things. I stay as neutral as possible, but when it's a little baby, I'm in it. I'm
That's
really
right.
in it.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And with illness, and healing, what has karma got to do with illness? People, you know, it's very difficult for some people to heal, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, a karma, I mean, here's a great example of karma and illness. Excuse me. If you, let's say somebody breaks their leg in this lifetime, I can trace back through all their lives incidences with their leg. They got shot with an arrow. They had an axe put in their leg. They fell and broke their leg. Nobody found them. They died. It's like over and over and over. So any kind of illness that we deal with in this lifetime,
It's
pneumonia,
trauma
breast
from another
cancer,
life.
intestinal issues,
Yeah.
it's just repeating.
Trauma from another life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I go in and I work on that with people. I do, and I say this humbly. It's hard for me to say this, but I was given the gift to clear things karmically, and I can go in and clear it. A lot of Buddhists get upset about this because they're counting mala beads and, and doing a lot of work to clear their karma. And I think that's great. I'm not willy-nilly clearing things karmically, but if something is, if I'm working on someone who has cancer and they've had some kind of illness like this, lifetime after lifetime, then going in and clearing it karmically will not only help them in healing, but it will help them to not manifest it in the next life. Yeah.
And that's why we do reincarnate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because of our unfulfilled desires and our karma that we have to work out.
Right.
I call them scars, that karma. It's like scars on the DNA. It's like scars, samskaras they're called, aren't they?
Samskara.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the samskaras, they scar you, and it's lifetime after lifetime of trying to heal that and
Yeah.
and not cause any more karma for ourselves as well through our
That's right.
thoughts, feelings, words, and actions.
I was working on a guy the other day and I said, we were going into some past lives and I said, you were shot with an arrow. You were in this big battle and it was back in 1700s. He was Native American. He was shot with an arrow right in his rib cage, but in the area of the lungs. And he said, that's so weird. I have a birthmark right there on my body. And it's like, yeah, people don't realize that these marks that we have that we're born with are often the scarring of what happened to us.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about. It's all about, dissolving that karma, working it out, doing the inner work so that we come off of samsara, the birth, death, rebirth wheel. Yeah, we come off of that and we're not born into this realm again. And we go on to higher or more celestial, experiences, multidimensional, universes and beautiful other realms that we can go to.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And with people as well, what keeps them, what keeps them from healing? It's the ego.
It's the ego, it's the false ego, because I believe the human condition, we have an ego. There's no way around it. There is an ego, but there's such a thing as a healthy ego and a false ego. And I think a lot of people are raised in dysfunctional families. Everybody's doing their best to try and survive whatever wounding and trauma they went through. And subsequently, it builds what I call a false ego. A healthy ego is when we do the inner work and we start to recognize who we are, what we're about, and that we're willing to set all of it aside. We're willing to get out of the way and just be. And when people ask me who I am, my immediate response is I am nothing, because I know that in that process of being nothing and really accepting that I am nothing, that's when we experience everything. So there's the ego layer that really prevents people from healing. And I find our society promotes that we hang on to stuff,
Yes.
not only do we hold on to stuff like we're all hoarders in our own way, but we hold on to illness and disease. Well, I had blah blah blah, and we wear it like a badge, and it's like, no, let that go. Stop identifying with that vibration because it's
Yeah.
not serving you.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that we survive. I survived another day. I'm alive. Great. But I don't feel that I constantly identifying with the past or being fearful of the future is allowing us any room to be present and to be in the moment.
No. And that's, the divine moment is all there is. There is only now. There is
Right.
no past or future. Everything is now. And, with the ego, we are not our thoughts and feelings in our ego. We're the soul consciousness behind it. We're the
Right.
observer. And we can use that ego, to live in this 3D world of duality, and
Right.
use it to our advantage, but once it overtakes us, then it starts wanting and needing and, hoarding, as you said,
Yeah.
onto the things in the material realm, when, yeah, that's not
Yeah.
truly that's not truly what that will never ever give us true happiness, because it's
No.
spiritual fulfillment, which is what every single person on the planet is truly needing, truly wanting. Spiritual
Exactly.
fulfillment, this fulfillment of the soul, you know.
Well, it is the experience and the acknowledgement within oneself that we're really not separated from God.
Yeah,
And that's to me what everybody's trying so hard to get to by, doing mushrooms or ayahuasca or taking this workshop and then that workshop and then doing this training and reading these books. And it's just this, giant spiritual smorgasbord that
yeah,
people can't stop feasting at because they don't have the discipline to sit down and
and go
simply
within.
go into meditation.
That's so true. It's like,
Ah,
but it's like everyone wants us to, like, the powers that be, or the dark ones, they look outside, go
yeah,
outside. Everything is outside. They
yeah,
don't want to, because if we actually go within and we start raising our kundalini,
yeah,
this is the most powerful, incredible. We are God's children. We are the goddess's children. We are
yeah,
have the same power as the goddess that created this realm. So, this is just incredible. But you can only know it if you know thyself. And if
right.
you examine yourself and you go within to that place where no one wants to go, because it's the darkness within, isn't it? It's the darkness.
Mhm.
No one wants to see the darkness within
It's
themselves.
the pain. It's the pain within.
That's
It's the
right. It's the
guilt and the
wounds.
shame and the
But
resentment,
we have to go within to
anger.
shine it, to shine the light on
Yeah,
it,
we do.
bring it to the
We do.
surface,
And we have to come to terms with what I think is the biggest experience we can have. And I do this with all my cancer patients. If we don't learn forgiveness at a very deep feeling level, then we're not going to heal. And forgiveness with oneself
Self.
first and
Yes.
foremost. And forgiveness has been sold down the river in lots of religions, and we all know the word. And people are very trivial about, oh, I forgave her a long time ago, but there was never any connection to feeling that forgiveness in the body. And that's when the healing starts to take place, when people can really accept that they need to forgive that person. I love you. I forgive you. Please forgive me. And wrap them up in a big cocoon of love from your heart.
That's
That's
so,
one of the best
yeah,
things people can do for healing.
yeah. And to realize that you've got to forgive yourself, because everything in your life has been self-created by you. And this is a big thing for people to realize, because they want to blame
Yeah,
outside. Oh, no, it was my wife. No, it was my boss. No, it was them over there in that
Right.
country that has made my life as it is, which is completely wrong.
Right.
Everything in our life is self-created, and we have to
Right.
take on that responsibility of that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going back to what I said before, becoming the master of your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions, because everything you give out through your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions will cause a reaction.
Right.
That it will cause a reaction. And I did an amazing interview with a professor who's interviewed 500 people who died and came back to life,
Uh-huh.
Professor Hodgson. And he said the life review is so profound, like when the soul passes over. The most
Mhm.
profound thing is what you did and what you gave out to others. Because
Right.
it just doesn't stop with that one person.
Hmm.
You say one thing to that one person in a negative way, then it goes out and it's like a ripple effect. It will go to the next person, the next person will do it to the next person, the next person will give, until it meets with an aware, awakened soul who transmutes that into love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So therefore, you've hurt not just one person, but many
Yeah.
by your thoughts, feelings, words, and actions. So
Yeah.
it's so important. I believe that's the most, it was profound when he told me that. It just knocked me. I was like, wow,
No,
the ripple
you're,
effect.
yeah, years ago, I was doing a session with a woman whose father had died. And I see everything on the other side. There he was standing in my office. And I said, she asked the question, what happened when you died? And he said, well, I went up in what appeared to be a tunnel of light. And my mom and dad and, other relatives were there helping me along the way. And I had my sit down with God, and it was like a review. But he said, God didn't ask me what I'd accomplished in my life. What God asked me was, how much did I love? And
Yes,
he
and how
said,
much?
I recounted that I loved you and your brother and your mother, but that was my list.
Yeah.
And God said, when you love those three people as much as you did, what you need to now learn is that that love is meant for everyone around the world, that you need to love everyone that much. And I've shared that message from that session, 40 years ago with so many people, because we get hung up on the accolades of, I'm a professor, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse, I'm a this, I'm a that. And it matters, sure, in the moment it matters. We all have value and purpose, but it doesn't matter in the big scheme, because really what we're here to do, besides work through our karma, is to love at the deepest level of our being, and to bring that divine love from God to
Yes,
our bodies, and make it real on earth.
that's right. And be of service to humanity,
That's
to
right.
spread that love. That's why I believe this is a real time. This great awakening is a time of unity consciousness of all of our brothers and sisters around the world waking up, coming together, and love
Mhm.
awareness. It's so beautiful. Could I ask you, what does ascension mean to you?
Oh, so many people have asked me that question. I find it an interesting question.
Mm,
Ascension means to me what happens to us when we die. We
mm.
ascend and go to God.
Yeah.
I feel, and I don't want to offend anyone by saying this, but being in this industry for as long as I've been in it, and in the trenches with, 8 to 12 people a day, I've talked to over 1 million people in my career. I feel that the word ascension has become sort of this vehicle for the spiritual community to attach to. Oh, I'm ascending. And it's like,
Yes.
no, you're not dying right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right here.
But can I ask you,
Yep.
we can have enlightenment while we are in the body now.
Yes, of course we can.
So instead of being enlightened when we die, which is what we're going to be anyway, but
Mhm.
this is what the yogis, we can have that now.
Yeah.
And so for me as well, you can have an ascension of heightening your vibration through that while we
Correct.
are in life, to
Correct.
go in, to raise your vibration. And I think that's beautiful if we can
I
achieve
no, and
that.
I agree with you. I think that there's different levels
Levels, yeah.
of raising one's frequency that's very important, and that people are having that experience.
Yeah.
For me personally, because I think of ascension and I think of Jesus, I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
of
yeah.
ascending in a way that
Resurrecting in his light
that is
body,
that
in his
is
light body.
that someone has reached a state of consciousness that I think is very special. It's
Mm.
super it's not the norm. Let me put it
Yeah.
that way.
No, no, no,
And that
no.
yes, that each
And
one of us will.
everyone says it as normal, oh, I'm ascending, I'm ascending. No. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit more than that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and just like people saying, that they're enlightened, I
Mm.
just yeah, I've just heard so much stuff in this industry that I feel is driven by a false ego, and
Yeah.
and I feel very um I have a client who's a Buddhist nun, and her teacher is very old. He's like 96. And in my own meditation, I have sat in front of him, and he always acknowledges and sees me there. And we have conversations, and I'm so humbled by him,
Mm.
because I know that he's powerful. He's enlightened.
Mm.
He's very much a teacher for the people, and and there's no fanfare about it. There's no
Yeah.
Facebook post about it.
Humbleness.
There's no,
Humbleness.
hey, come be ascended with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
He's just, nobody knows who he is. He's super, super humble. And I love that. I
Yeah.
think that we lose that again in the spiritual community,
Mm.
because there's still so much ego involved.
That's right. And that's
Yeah.
the problem. That's the
Yeah.
problem. There should be no hierarchy. You know, we're just all on different levels of evolution, but there is no, hierarchy
Yeah.
in the spiritual evolution. We're all the same on that soul level. We all have the same soul as
Yeah.
God. And that brings me on. How do you, for you, what or who is God, goddess, or the creator? How do you see that?
This is not a trick question.
Mm.
Um, um, God to me is uh, the divine love energy in a form that we don't even understand as humans, that is so high and so enlightened and so powerful, that in this human experience, as an infinite soul, we're all infinite souls having a human experience. We are we are helped if we remember that, and we are able to turn things over to that higher power, because as humans, and being so young, we're only about 4 years old as a species, we often don't know how to do things or how to manage things. And it's a much better practice, in my opinion, to turn something over to God, because God is a fantastic producer, choreographer, and director of all
Correct.
things.
Creator, yeah.
And the goddess to me is the earth.
Yeah.
It is that soul connection that we all have with her. And that's why ultimately we're here. We incarnate where she is.
Yes.
As infinite souls, we come back to the earth because
Yes.
we are tied to her. We get so confused about soulmates and twin flames and all this stuff about each other. when in fact what we should be focused on is our relationship with her.
Yes, the mother,
She's the
the
one,
great
the
mother,
mother.
the
She's the
great
one
mother.
who's going to ground our energy and
That's
help
right.
us to actually expand and be all that we can be on this planet.
You know, what I believe, I feel like we are all fallen, risen earth angels because we come from, you know, the Father, come dense, our soul becomes denser and denser as it comes through the realms onto the mother. And we are here to learn about the mother. She teaches us, you know, when I started going into nature, that's when I've really started having more depth in my awakening and understanding of, you know, all things, because she called me back. She called
Yeah,
back my soul parts, you know, that I'd given away. And
yeah.
it's so beautiful. So we learn about the mother and she heals us. And then when we're ready for the ascension, yeah,
Yeah,
we go up to the Father. So it's
yeah.
true, isn't it? The Shakti and the Shiva come together,
That's
you
right.
know, in that union, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. I agree with you, and I think that God is very real, very much a part of our cosmology, and that we all carry the God particle within us, but it
Yes.
does not, in the way that a human wants to express that or experience that, it does not necessarily mean, in my opinion, that I am God, because that just goes into the whole ego thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
means that I carry that
We
particle
are
that
children,
allows me.
children of the one, children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that it allows me to connect with divine love, to bring, I am a vessel, you're a
Mhm.
vessel, everyone is a vessel to bring that divine love and that earth energy together at the heart, which creates a riot of incredible experiences. Art being the biggest one.
Yeah.
Art is an expression of that divine
Yeah.
love and earth energy meeting at the heart.
Yeah.
And if we are truly living our lives as these vessels, that we're stepping out of the way and our infinite soul is acknowledging, I need to bring this divine love and this earth energy together and express it from my heart,
Yes.
then we're in service. Then
That's correct. Because
yeah,
we're just channels. We're just channels, and
right.
we're bringing it through us onto the earth. And that's how the divine experiences through us.
Yes.
So that's why some people, they just say, oh no, you know, leave it up to God. I'm going to pray, 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 and God will sort it out.
Mhm.
No, we
Mhm.
have to bring it through us and, you know, speak it out, act it out, you know, do these things, do God's work, you know, feel it
Yeah,
out, think it out. We have to do that. We can't just leave it all up and not do anything. Oh, God will
yeah,
sort it out. No, we use God's energy, the power and the goddess's power to come through us to either serve for the good or serve in a negative way. It's
yeah.
always our choice. It's
And
free
and
will.
and and the healing work that I do is really based on what we're talking about. It's me getting out of the way and God's energy and the goddess energy coming through me, and I'm working. So yeah,
Wonderful.
totally. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's so great. That's so
Yeah.
good. Wow. And can I just ask the last question?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you see humanity in the next, what do you see for humanity in the next 20 years?
Mm. Well, I see humanity really in the dark night of the soul right now.
Yes, that's what I think.
Battling. It's like we're in a Star Wars movie and we're all thinking, oh, the Death Star is going to take over, but we believe in the Force and we're going to fight it out. And I don't mean that in a violent way. I just mean, I think in every country, in every society of people, we're all going through the same thing. We're all
Yeah.
feeling the duality split apart, and
Mm,
the good has become really good and the bad has become
become
really
really,
bad.
yeah.
And the calling that we are being asked by a much higher power is to learn how to stay in the middle and
Yes.
to not measure things outside of ourselves. Oh, that's really good. Oh, no, that's really bad. But to find that measuring system within our soul body and to stay in the center, to be in the
Yes.
middle of all of this stuff going on.
The middle
Because the
path.
more that we stay in the center, the more we access our own inner peace. And
Yes.
when we're in a state of peace, that's what we start to manifest in the world.
That is so beautiful, and it's so true and profound. And what is your message to the world?
Stay in the center.
That's right.
Yeah, meditate,
Yes.
meditate,
Yes.
and
Because meditate brings
find,
balance. Meditation brings balance. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, and find that place, that inner peace. I have once a month a meditation peace project on Zoom where I take people into meditation and we go really, really deep and we go into inner peace and we hold that state of peace. We surround the world in that state of peace.
Beautiful.
And it's a beautiful meditation. And
Yeah. And the
I'm
more we do, the more we give peace out, the more that will manifest in the world.
that's right.
Oh,
That's right.
that is so beautiful.
I wanted to tell you I'm going to be doing a meditation retreat in Scotland next year. And
Wow.
yeah, and it's on my website, and I wanted to mention it because so many of your listeners are in the UK and might want to come. So
Wonderful. And give us your website again, please.
sure, it's Sonja, Sonja, Grace, GRACE.com.
Lovely. Well,
Yeah.
Sonja, I'd just like to say thank you for your divine, truth and wisdom that you've given us today. And
Mhm.
thank you for all of your healing that you're helping